We spoke, when we were going through the pandemic, we spoke about oil and gas. We talked about what did this mean for oil and gas. Well, now that I say coming through it, but I think everybody hopefully knows what I mean by saying that. But as a business, we're all having to find our way through it. Now that we're sort of a little bit where the light is and looking back, how do you feel about it? Has your thoughts changed about oil and gas and kind of, as a result of COVID and the impact that it's had on it as an industry?
No, I don't think so. I don't think COVID has really changed my view on it. No more than it has on just the fragility of of business in general and how quickly things can change. No, I think a bigger question around oil and gas is the environmental impact. I think realistically, the impact of COVID is quite small compared to the long-term impact climate change could have. Yeah. Because that will shift entire populations. If the ice caps melt, yeah, you've lost areas of country that are never coming back. Areas of the world will change fundamentally. Agriculture will shift. There'll be tensions around the place. It's a slower change, but it's much, much bigger. Also, I think the plastics is a huge problem. Almost as bad, if not worse, than the carbon dioxide emissions has been the availability of cheap plastic from oil and just plastics in everything. And I think personally, I feel partly responsible, I guess. And as a consumer, we're equally responsible, but also in an industry. But it's not down to one person. It's a whole thing. Oil has given us cheap energy and cheap resources. Yeah. Cheap materials. So I think one of the things that I feel sad about is the single-use plastics as a result of COVID, all the PPE. I mean, because of what we're having to do now with wearing masks and lots of people in their jobs like hairdressers, and they have to have single-use throwaway plastic. I think that's going to have a really bad impact on the environment in the short term unless we can get a handle on it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of bad. I think the key for oil and gas is to remain stable long enough to help a transition to a cleaner economy. I think if we have big price fluctuations, it upsets investment in new tech. If the oil price goes too low, it becomes too cheap. No one's going to switch. I mean, yeah. When the oil price dropped and fuel's down to just over £1 a litre, electric doesn't look good anymore. So we need a stable price for a while, but we also need commitment from governments and companies to invest for the long term. The oil and gas industry has a massive part to play in decarbonisation. If you look at the technology required around CO2 reinjection, there's no other industry that can do that. So yeah, I think the industry has a really positive role to play in it. I don't think that's really my views changed on that as a result of coronavirus.